Deanna Carr, Mystical Moonlight. Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. I've watched some of your interviews with Sue Greenwald of Empowered Light Holistic Expo. What an interesting history I have with her, fascinating woman. Um, and it's a shame that her last conference had to get postponed because of the sickness, and she hasn't been able to schedule another one since. But it is what it is, and glad you do interviews with her. She uploads the interviews to her channel and you upload them to your channel as well. And I'm
Mhm.
subscribed to both channels. Your channel is Mystical Moonlight. So without further ado, we're on a time clock here. Only got 45 minutes because we're on Zoom. Normally I do pay-per-view for the last 15 minutes of the interviews or so, but this whole interview will be free for everybody because we've only got 45 minutes. So lucky you. So without further ado, who is Deanna Carr? What has she experienced that causes her to do the stuff that you do? Introduce yourself, what you experienced, primary source perspective, as I always say to my guests. So knock yourself out. You got the floor. I'll put myself on mute. I don't have Alex Jones-itis. I don't interrupt my guests. So
Okay.
self out and
Yes, I'm Deanna Carr. I'm the Mystical Moonlight. So when I was young, probably around like 13 or so, my mom, Sue Greenwald, she would take me with her to, her guided meditation. She just got into yoga at that point, and we had a system. There was people there, and it was just a great experience. So I started with guided meditation, and people were just, talking about what they saw in their vision. So mine were very elaborate. So that's how it started. Later on, she ended up opening her first yoga studio, and we did these events where we would bring crystals, do readings, that kind of thing. And somebody hands me a deck of cards and says, read. So that's how my experience with Oracle cards started. It was very, you take the reign, you're going to learn, you're going to figure it out. I ended up doing pretty good. They gave me the set of cards and said, you need to keep doing this. And the same day, I also learned how to do stone stories. So that's where you basically channel the energy of the crystal or the stone, and you can receive messages. So I learned a lot very quickly. And then that just kept transforming. So it started off simplistic, as in just meeting and going over this kind of thing. And then later on, I just had a natural ability to understand, to channel, to communicate. So it just kept developing as time went on. And doing the events was a great way because I met people. I didn't really have a teacher, it was all self-taught, but I got little bits of guidance here and there that really helped me to develop my skill and progress in the way I have. Um, and yeah, I think that's it.
wonderful. Did you say Sue Greenwald's your mother?
Yeah, she's my mom.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I don't recall her ever saying that on the interviews that she did with you. Okay, so let's get into subjects. You've I guess I'll go by most popular to least popular. Your channel, you've only got 152 subscribers, so even though your videos don't have a lot of views, it's still great subjects here. So well, I guess we'll start talking mermaids first subject. I can't resist talking about that because, well, interestingly, I've been out of work for 6 months, but I think that may be coming to an end. It looks like I've got a day job coming up with FedEx in one of their warehouses. And the Starbucks, of all places, wants to interview me. We know Starbucks has the mermaid as their logo. So Little Mermaid was one of those Disney movies I kind of grew up with.
Yeah.
So never seen the live action version. But what who are mermaids? What are they? Where do they come from? What is their purpose? How do you find one? Can you go scuba diving and find one, or is it not that simple? Are they interdimensional? Why don't you set the thing straight on mermaids?
Okay, so for mermaids, they are interdimensional. They are here for a purpose. They're here to heal the earth. They are more advanced than us. So most of the time, if you're going to go scuba diving, you're not going to run into a mermaid. They are going to try to stay low key. They want to keep their distance from us because of everything we've done to the planet. Before it was a little bit different, they'd intermingle a little bit more, but as time progressed, they realized that humans were more destructive than helpful. So they do have more advanced technology, so that's why they're able to hide a little bit better. They do have advanced systems compared to what we have as a system. They are there's two forms, well, there's more than two forms, but the two base forms is salt water, which is ocean, or there are freshwater, which are deep lakes. So they come in different formations. They are shapeshifters, so they can walk on lands, like in the Little Mermaid. They don't have to give up their voice to do so, but they are able to, you know, come about. So people could have met mer people and just not known it. There have been videos surfacing of people, you know, scuba diving and seeing mer people. Some of them are true. So now with technology, it's a little bit easier to bypass their technological system, so you can see some of the stuff, versus their hidden realm type thing. What else? Yeah, like I said, some of the videos are accurate. They are seeing the actual mer people, but for the most part, you're not going to just run into them in underwater.
Okay, thank you. Another recent interview you did, gargoyles. One of the cartoon shows I grew up with was Gargoyles, and a gargoyle named Goliath was the was the master of, well, the leader of those that group of gargoyles. So they come across as being kind of bad. David Icke, the great orator of our time, has, I believe, among other things, said that gargoyles are a symbol of reptilians. I don't know where he's making that. They don't really look like reptilians. They do look kind of demonic, but does that necessarily looks can be deceiving. So you find them on Gothic cathedrals. Maybe you can explain why they are found on Gothic cathedrals, and so knock yourself out. What are gargoyles? Who are they? What are they? What are they here to do? And are they good or bad?
All right, so like I did in a recent interview, like you said, we talked about how the gargoyles we're here to be protectors, so that is their main mission. Later on, the churches found use for gargoyles, so they basically encase them and entrap them to be protectors for their services. There's a lot of stuff that happens at churches, more negative than positive. It's all depends on your beliefs and all that kind of thing. But for the most part, they're there to keep stuff out and keep certain energies in. So they're protecting on a different level. They are there for more of a negative reason, but they don't want to be. They've been, like I said, entrapped.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. All right. I have always loved dolphins and whales. My list of favorite animals, they were animals that I would put near the top of my list of favorite animals. So I guess it has been said that they are come from other worlds, and they're a lot more intelligent than we are led to believe they are. So why don't you spill the beans on what dolphins and whales are and what they're really here for?
Okay, so yeah, dolphins and whales are from other planets. Whales were more purposefully put here. Dolphins were more of, let's say, more of an accident, but everybody's here for a specific reason. Most of the beings that have been placed here have a purpose, and most of the time it is to help the Earth. So the whales and the dolphins are here to help the planet progress. They want to keep everything clean, high vibrational patterns. The problem is that they do have some mythical powers. They're able to create portals, transport, that kind of thing. So they're used in a negative way. Now we're running into the issues of not only ocean pollution because of our plastics and how we treat the waters, but also because we have government systems trying to figure out how to weaponize certain sound waves and that kind of thing, and they're actually killing off the sea creatures such as the whales. The dolphins are a little bit easier to escape. Whales just move at a very slow pace, and they're a little bit easier to get to versus the dolphins. And I know there's been a lot coming out within the last few months that there's a lot of oceanic issues, and people are seeing the whales and dolphins acting a lot differently than they normally do. And so there's going to be an increase in what's going on in our oceans.
Yes, the oceans are a fascinating place. Be nice if we could remove a lot of the plastic out of those oceans.
Yeah, it's horrible. The Great Garbage Patch is horrendous, and it's really is doing damage.
Indeed. Um, all right, let's go on to dragons. You have a video here called "Dragons, Are They Real?" Well, of course they're real, but are they good or bad? I mean, once again, David Icke, he sees a conspiracy and everything. He sees dragons as evil reptilians, but then again, that's just him seeing a conspiracy and everything. They are dragons. According to Gregor's Reader Andrew Barsis, they have a lot to do with the DNA codes of the world. And there's humans that are dragons incarnate, like Bruce Lee, and also Eminem is a dragon of all people. And of course, we're in the year of the dragon. I resonate with dragons because that's said to be the Chinese equivalent of my zodiac sign of Aries. Not sure where they make that conclusion, but they have. So anyway, they are real. So why don't you spill the beans on what they are here for?
Okay, so dragons, they have their own purposes. They were brought here to help, like everything else, to help the planets. As humans, we saw them as greedy beings, but also we saw that they would collect gems, jewels, gold, that kind of thing. Now, they had purposes for it, but as humans, we saw it as an easy way to access minerals that we couldn't necessarily access. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of years ago where we couldn't figure out, how to dig that far, how to get the gems or where the gems were. So the dragons did the dirty work and the humans could easily take access. So they were here doing their own thing. And then with everything within time, they became a little more aggressive. I mean, if people are bombarding your house, taking your stuff, you're going to get aggressive too. So a lot of the stuff that we hear about how negative and how power hungry they were is really more just territorial. They do have animal like being. So that when they're protecting their space, they're protecting their materials, they're going to get aggressive. And like I said, if somebody's entering your home trying to take your stuff, you're going to act aggressively too. So a lot of the stories we hear about are based off of how we treated them, and then we're crying victim. So yeah.
Thank you. Now, another mystical creature, fairies. You mentioned the movie Fern Gully. Yes, in your interview with Sue Greenwald, and yes, that was a movie they showed us like in third grade hallway movies, this kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yes, the fairy able to feel the pain of the tree when the guy was carving the name in the tree, and he could feel is like, what are you talking about? Feel its pain? Well, sure, they can feel the pain. They are because they're fairies, and do they really have the same powers as that fairy from Fern Gully? I don't know, but well, you can tell us that. What kind of powers do they have? What kind of powers don't they have? And what do you got to do to see one when you're out in nature?
Yeah. Okay. So fairies, there's different classifications of fairies. Each fairy has its own type of realm and space it's working in. So a good example is like the Disney movies where Tinkerbell, she's a tinker, then you have the water fairy, the woodland fairy. So each one has its own space that it's going to work on. It has its own powers based off of where it works and alters the energy of whatever it's working on. When I talked about the Fern Gully, it was based off of, how do they feel the energy? They can communicate, they can connect with Earth itself. So if they're working with the tree, they can feel that pain. So a lot of people carve into trees. Like in that movie, that's what he did. But the tree feels that. And a lot of people, even here and now, we carve into trees and we don't realize that there is pain. It's basically the skin of the tree. And we're causing mass pain to it. We just don't recognize it because it's not us. Whereas fairies, they can get onto this deeper level. Like most mythical creatures, they feel in a different way than we do. And part of the reason we feel differently is because we've been disconnected. And having this disconnect is putting us at a bad predicament because we don't really understand what we're doing to the environment because we physically can't feel it. We can see it, we can talk about it, but we can't feel it.
Thank you. Another video here. Dinosaurs, were they what we were told? I remember Akashic Records radio Andrew Barnes is saying that the story that they were killed by a giant meteorite is actually mainstream science and mainstream history lie. That's not true. They did not die from a meteorite impact, and that crater in the Yucatan is probably a nuclear bomb explosion from antiquity and not a meteorite impact. Fitting I asked this, I actually watched a Godzilla movie, one of the Japanese ones from the 70s yesterday.
Yeah.
The one Hedorah versus the Smog Monster. I never actually had a chance to see that one when I was when I was young. So finally watched that, and kind of looks like Hedorah. No, it looks more like Rodan, the flying pteranodon in that picture you got there with a T-Rex. Godzilla being a radioactive T-Rex. So why don't you tell us what dinosaurs were here for, and if you know what they actually died of, by all means, tell us that.
Okay, so as we know, we're on the game zone. So we are not the first beings that have been placed here to play out the game zone. Dinosaurs were one of the first, not one of the first, but they were closer to one of the first beings that were placed on the game zone. Throughout time, it has shifted a little bit. But we talk about the Jurassic and Cretaceous, you know what I'm talking about, Cretaceous. Wow, I can't say it. Oh my gosh. During that period, they were here to be participants in the game zone to see how they would handle everything that was thrown at them. They're a lot different than what we have been shown and what we've been told. Their only reason we really know about them now is because of the bones that we've found. But they weren't wiped out, like you said, from the meteor. Most of them were taken out. And then we do still have evidence of dinosaurs being related to other species that are here on the planet. So it's not like they're just gone and disappeared fully. We still have remnants of them. They're just not in the forms that we've been shown.
Thank you. There was a video here that giants, were they real? I hear about the Nephilim giants. Zachariah Sitchin says the Nephilim and the Anunnaki and the Elohim. You can use those words interchangeably, but not all Nephilim or Elohim, not all Elohim are Anunnaki, and yeah, interchangeably, they're not all fall in that same category is what I'm trying to say. So there's different species, different factions, different races, different groups. So
Yeah.
why don't you maybe enlighten us on the different factions of giants and what they were here for, where they came from, and all that.
Okay, so most of them were originated from Earth. The problem is that throughout time, we have changed. We have, killed them off. There are remnants of giants. they were here for different purposes, but they were most likely just here to live. Over time, like I said, we kind of ran them off and killed them off and everything horrible because, you have this huge being. What else could happen? So we took it as a negative. Some have run underground, so they're in inner earth, and then a lot of them have died off, and that's all species of giants. Um, like I said, there are many species of them. There are still, like I said before, there are remnants of them. We have people that still have that kind of genetic code of giants, and we can see it throughout our time here.
Thank you. And now Bigfoot. I think Sasquatch is a more appropriate name. Bigfoot's kind of insulting. But it says here, we need help now. So when you say when Bigfoot's saying we need help now, what exactly is that's supposed to mean? What's that all about?
Okay, so if you watch the video, um, me and Sue were doing a video on the Sasquatch, and so I did a channeling, and during that time it was, they are here. Sasquatches are real. They're just in hiding. They don't want people to be around. They don't like the energy, but they are being hunted by, Sasquatch hunters, government, whoever you want to consider. So it was pretty much a channeling of them saying that they needed some help. So that's what that was about.
Thank you, thank you. And all right, this whole thing about Pithalum, I'm hearing that name all the time. Sue Greenwald mentions it all the time in her interviews with Smarty Jones. Smarty Jones, that's the name of a racehorse. John Smarty Mendez. They talk about Pithalum often. So David Adair's also brought the name up. So for those that are still like not in the know about this, what is Pithalum? Who is Pithalum? Why do you refer to as a female sometimes? So please enlighten us on what that is, who that is, why it's a female, and what it's here for, and what there's this crystal ball or something that seems to be associated with what's that all about, and all the rest of it.
Okay, so Pithalam is a being from a different realm, let's say, different universe, whatever you want to call it. She basically came to Earth for a mission, but this was, billions of years ago. So it is a very old soul, more advanced than we are or could ever imagine. So Pithalam, so it's this crystal ball. There's different forms of it, but this is like the first version. And it's just bringing in the energy of Pithalam. So you can even connect with Pithalam on your own. It's basically a source. And it is, so like I said, she came here from a different planet billions of years ago. And David Adair talks about her. I know, on Sue's videos, they have conversation about how he has, worked with Pithalum, and they've actually, intermingled, and they're like one right now. So he has that consciousness. It is a higher being, and it's able to communicate, to work with higher technology, and it has a purpose here. Smarty developed these so that we have access to Pithlum, because it is such an advanced, let's say, species, that we can use it later as a form of technology. So it's starting to bring in a higher vibrational pattern, and we can connect with it on a higher level.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, thank you. Boy, I haven't received a warning saying that this recording is going to be ending soon. We've probably got like 5 minutes, so it's probably coming soon. I think that does apply to both if I were to send it and if someone else were to send it to me. But anyhow, should be talking about that. We should talk about more things to be discussing. It looks like you do tarot card readings and such. Are those tarot cards, or those is that another deck besides tarot that you do? Astrology decks and such. What's your experience with card decks, and how do you know for a fact that the cards know what the universe knows what card you're going to pick, or what card is fitting to appear for given the circumstance? Like, how can the universe be sure that the right card that's laid down is going to be the one that's appropriate for what needs to be said, if you get my drift?
Okay.
Why don't you talk about that for a little bit?
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, I started doing oracle cards when I was about 13. So I've been doing them for a very long time. Um, they are oracle cards. I don't do tarot cards. I've created my own systems. Like I said, in the beginning, somebody handed me a deck of cards and said, "Here, read." And so I just had a natural talent for it. Everything I pulled out, I started with 3 cards, looked at the card and just channeled in and brought intuitive, you know, messages that were coming through. And the person was like, "Okay, you've got this. So just keep working on it. Take the cards, keep developing." It's something that I've developed. Like I said, I was 13 at the time, so I've been doing it for a while. I'm able to look at the card and pull out information. So I'm at the point where I don't specifically need cards. I can do a direct channel. So that's just pulling in information from whoever I'm reading. So our beings give off higher vibrational patterns or energy, and I'm able to have my higher source go in and kind of pull out information needed. So when I'm talking about the oracle cards, I don't, like I said, I'm an oracle versus a tarot reader, so I'm more than just cards. Um, but when I'm reading the cards, I can naturally pull in the energy that is needed to get the correct cards. The universe, I mean, you're knocking the cards, you're putting in new energy, you're bringing in energy from the person you're reading from. So there's a lot more that goes into reading cards versus, just pulling random things and just saying a whole bunch of gibberish. I mean, I'm very accurate. My timing's down very specifically. I mean, I've had clients call me the next day saying, "Hey, it happens." And they had no idea what I was talking about at the time. So I've developed it so I have my timing down, my readings are accurate. Um, there are people that use cards as a way to manipulate people. So you do always want to be cautious about who you have reading your cards. You want something that's developed and is accurate. So usually people try to test you and ask you crazy questions or keep everything off the table to see, if you're a good reader or not. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, remaining meeting time 10 minutes, it says. Let's cover
Yeah.
subjects on the fly here. King Arthur, Merlin, apparently he never existed, but then he did exist because there's a legend. I've heard people say that they've been to Camelot. George Cavazos says he's been to Camelot. Andrew Barsis, when he described what Merlin was, he mentioned the word paradox like 5 times in 10 seconds or something, trying to make sense of what Merlin is. But why don't you help make better sense of what the legend of King Arthur really is all about, and why it exists if there wasn't such a king in the records, and what's that all about?
So they were real people, they were real beings. They were here to help advance Earth. Merlin was here to push King Arthur in a direction of peace. I mean, there was a lot of negative things happening within our Earth at the time. I mean, it was a very dark time. So this was a pivotal point to bring in a different energy. They did have access to magic, which was frowned upon. You would be put to death. Very negative for anybody that used or developed their own skills in magic. So it was, all real. It's just history doesn't like to really give any props or anything nice to people that used magic, especially during a certain time frame. They wanted it to be more negative. They wanted to keep that fear in people. So they used fear of killing, using your magic. So some of the people that had powers kind of lost that development because they had more of a fear if they used it, they'd be killed. So fear really ran everything.
Okay. Um, all right, great. Clock's ticking, some more stuff to talk about. All right, sharks. You just did a talk with Sue Greenwald about sharks. Discovery Channel does a Shark Week every year. I don't know if they
Yep.
do it the same week or if they alternate. But anyhow,
Same week, pretty much.
okay, they've sharks have been here for about 400 million years. They say longer than the dinosaurs have. So, and there was a comment I made on your channel, and you loved it, where I said if the shark ever attacks you, just bop it really hard on the nose, and that'll go away. Most people are just too afraid of what's going on to them at the time when they're being attacked to even think of doing that. But they
Yeah.
did show Mythbusters. If we just bop on the nose, it'll go away, just like a general small fish. If you try to attack,
Mhm.
it'll swim away. So
Yeah,
that
they
was
do say the nose, even if you watch scuba divers now with the sharks, they just tap the nose and they kind of move off in a different direction. And then of course, if you're getting tacked, I mean, really your only option is the eye. I mean, you're already in the mouth. Unfortunately for real sharks, their taste buds are within their mouth. So I mean, you're already that's the only way they're gonna figure out who you are. But yeah, most of the sharks attacks are more from mechanical sharks. So they've, changed the course of how shark is to use it to help develop certain things. Most of it is fear. I mean, if you look at the statistics between sharks and other creatures, sharks don't actually have a high rate of killing people. It's just now we've instilled this fear in people. So when you go to the beach, you're more skeptical and they're using it to their advantage. I can't hear you.
I was on mute. Sorry. You did a long talk with Sue Greenwald about pyramids. So why don't we just cover that subject? Always learn more about pyramids. Dave Wilcock did another one of his 3-hour talks on them. He talks about pyramids a lot. So why don't you? I'd love to go to Egypt one of these days for one of those long tours. But
Yeah.
tell us about pyramids.
Okay, so pyramids are actually machine. So they're not what we've been told about tombs. Tombs are completely different than pyramids. They're used for different reasons. Some are used for healing abilities, some are used for transportation and teleportation. There are more pyramids than we know of. So we've been over to Bosnia. Bosnia has some pyramids there that they're uncovering. They've been working on that for years. Beautiful space. Egypt, I have not been to those pyramids. My mother has. She said that it is crazy. You just can feel the energy there, and it does feel mechanic. I've, you know, I've been saying it for years. They're here for different purposes. And then even if you look into American history, we actually have a lot of pyramids here in America. We just don't know it. And a lot of it is, like I said, there's purpose between healing. Some of are specifically for healing, and then some of them are specific for teleportation. And they can connect within our realm or different planets.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Looks like we've only got a few minutes remaining. So and I think I've exhausted all the subjects on your channel. Very good that we were able to cover this all in a short period of time, that we were a lot of subjects on the fly. That's great. So why don't you bring this to a close? Why don't you bring out anything you'd like to bring out, future talks you plan to do, any subjects that maybe you want to expand on in the future that you think are going to be coming up and all that. We're in summer solstice right now. The official time is like an hour and a half from now or something like that, and we got a full moon tomorrow. Looking forward to that. So I'm always doing my nature walks and rituals around those things. So why don't you bring us to a close and anything you want to get out?
Okay, so for my videos, I never know what I'm going to talk about. I just get asked to do videos and we discuss them as we're going. So everything is usually on the fly. Most of the time I'm channeling. I am going to be bringing out a few more videos on how to do, self-healing, self-cleansing, things that, everybody should know how to do. We just don't have access to the knowledge. So I'm going to be doing more of a mixture. Um, I do readings. I put some out there, and then I also do private readings. I do group healings. So I try to do as much as I can to help people that are in need. So I always say if people need help or have questions, always ask because I can give you as much information. It is always hard because you never know what people know until they ask the questions. So yeah, comments and questions always help to progress the channel.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Great, great. So I guess without further ado, I'll bring this to a close. It was a fascinating interview, a lot of subjects on the fly in a short period of time. So great speaking to you. I look forward to your future interviews with us, Sue. Have a wonderful summer solstice, a wonderful new moon. Take care. Best of luck to you
Yeah,
and
thank
enjoy.
you.
Take care now. Bye bye.